Hi everyone, this is Dragon GGY. I wanted to make the same series for IS4 like I did back in IS3, but reality is that I no longer have the same amount of free time for those. So I'll have to cut to the chase, and in this video, talk about some changes in terms of how you approach each game so you can keep them in mind when you play, and then they could serve as tips to help you better get used to the new playstyle in IS4. So what has changed since IS3? First of all, the length of horizontal paths has been decreased. Instead, there are now a lot of vertical pathways you can take to maneuver up and down. Instead of spamming keys this time, you are making use of your anti-interference to go up and down, which when you compare the keys are relatively more abundant and can be spent quite generously. In fact, the game encourages you to do so and get a better chance at developing. For note, compared to all the filler events in IS3, encounters are now much more valuable. They give you resources and quite some special battles that are valuable for in-game development. One of the big factors behind it is that now the ending events are separated and have their own nodes. Although for some endings you do need to find their prerequisites in trade-off or XCOP nodes, but overall you no longer pass through multiple encounters that do absolutely nothing for you. With all these changes to nodes, the key mechanism that really puts them together to make IS4 more tactical and engaging is the fact that you can now alter nodes or set up bonus perks or rewards by making use of the new board mechanism, officially known as fortitals. So you need to actively plan your routes by using them wisely. Next is that shops are now extremely crucial for in-game development. First of all, as opposed to IS3, you no longer need a key to withdraw your balance. And while withdrawing, unlike in IS2 where it goes up quadratically, so you spend balance in 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, it's now a more forgiving sequence of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 as you withdraw more. More importantly, for every shop you visit, you are able to bite off anything and then refresh the whole stock completely and for free once. On top of that, you can use the fortitals to easily halve off a shop. You can be in a really bad shape entering a shop and you exit with full arsenal. So always grab one of those shop boards, it will come in handy. Now, there are new mini floors that you can enter by spending your anti-interference like you do with keys in IS3. But unlike IS3, it does not feature a tedious boss fight at the end. Instead, you enter these mini floors with a certain modification, like having SP requirement for all skills reduced, but also make all of them auto triggers. All these modifications comes with pros and cons, but most of the time, not very oppressive. These mini floors are effectively extra nodes for you to develop your roster, so I would generally recommend going for them when you can. Some are the bullet points. Some relics now have upgraded effects on higher difficulties to better smooth out the difficulty curve, and the debuffs you get as you progress further are less oppressive and you can get rid of them relatively easily. From that, let's summarize what all the changes translate into operator meta. But before everything, again, this is a meta-centered discussion. There are a lot of operators that can stand up to the challenge with dedicated practice. These are just picks that are more reliable in carrying you through difficulty 15. First, you have more chances to develop, and upgraded relics means that you will have noticeably more hope to spend, so 6-star operators are in a more dominant state than in IS3 towards the lower rarity ones. Also, 3-star operators no longer cost 1 hope, so you won't need to pick a ton of duplicated helmet guides. Next, difficulty levels no longer give enemies insane arts resistance, so arts damage is viable again. For enemy lineups, they are overall fast moving and hard hitting, so overall ground units have a better time than ranged ones because they can block them. Speaking of blocking, defenders now have a more crucial place because they can actually block high-risk enemies that prove too much for other operators, without worrying about their defense being chipped away by seaborne offsprings. These are operators with most notable performance and are commonly considered quote-unquote meta amongst Chinese players, although personally I'd say the former 3 are on an even higher level. Next, I will do a quick breakdown by class to talk about some best picks in each class. For Vanguards, they are now more demanded because you can bump into a DP recovery debuff. Amongst them, Innis, who packs Invis Break, Slow, Bind, DP regen altogether is just the most worth it for the hope she costs. Very dominant performance in the game mode. Mew Mew requires you to be very familiar with positioning, who to clone depending on the map, and the skill to pick. So more advanced and harder to learn, but definitely viable. To deal with the DP debuffs, you can pick Flag Bearers on top of Innis for supplement, or you can go with Fang as the budget pick. Guards have returned from their hardship in IS3. Guards tickets are just so competitive in IS4, but the first pick mostly lands between Winnar or Dagon, who comes later. For starting the game, you can go with Gavio Altar or Executor Altar, but they do fall off a little bit at later floors. For second or third picks, you can pick Surtur to Hollow Drop and kill some tough ones, or you can pick Silver Ash as a support for faster redeployment or tanking with skill 2. With relics, sometimes Qiubai is also viable. Defenders are picked to block some threatening targets on the later floors, and that purpose is relatively simple. That's why budget picks like Kuora or Bubble are good. But if you want to play it safe, picking Nian or Hoshigama is also fine. As time goes on, Jessica Altar, who comes out a month later, becomes the first pick because beyond the tanking function, she also provides some damage with skill 2 and some CC with skill 3. Sometimes Saria is also picked as a buff provider in Ending 3. The latest operator Shu also provides tons of other functions beside tanking, so at the end of the day, it's more up to the ending you're going for, the relics you have, to determine if you only need some pure defense picks or do you want others with varying functions. Supporters, as compared to IS3, got a little bit weaker this time around. Like I said, you can pick up a tons of relics, which may be enough to supplement damage, so dedicated buff or debuff providers are less competitive. The most universal pick out of supporters are usually Sculptor. She provides survival on the way in endings 1 and 2, and crucial buff in ending 3 with skill 3. It's worth pointing out that Virtuosa, who arrives 3 months later, is a pretty reliable starter and damage dealer out of the whole supporter class. For CC picks, you can pick Gnosis with relics, but unfortunately all bosses are immune to freezing. Honorable mention goes to Suzerain, who can provide good AoE slow and is good buffer for ending 3 and ending 4, but like before, is mostly a supplement pick towards the end of your run. Snipers were pretty good in IS3, but IS4 turns out to be much less friendly for snipers. Enemies move fast, and there are quite a lot of them. It's just not very ideal for single target operators who don't have high DPH. So out of our sniper options, the most viable and effective one is Typhon. She also enjoys a lot of relics to boost her damage and CC abilities. Towards the end of IS4, we will also get Ray, who deals insane DPH with a fast skill cycle, has a flexible range, and is generally good with buffs. I'd say that the best sniper pick in IS3 is just Typhon, and that changes to Ray afterwards. Other snipers are okay if you actively create environment for them to do damage, but are just overall less effective. Medics are also more important because they are given the job to sustain all the defenders and lane holders. Unlike IS3, where there are maps medics just can't save anyone, in IS4 if you invest in sustain, the combination of medics and defenders will survive. In fact, all of the endings, especially the standard ending 1, requires you to have proper sustained in order to survive against both the enemies and the raining icicles. As a special one in the medic class, Reed Altar is considered one of the most reliable starters before expansion 2, and continues to do work both in terms of damage and healing as you progress. For pure healing, my personal best picks are Aya Altar or Silence because there are relics that greatly boosts their performance. I also pick Warfarin a lot after expansion 2 because she's the ideal buffer for both Dagon and Ray. Celtic when the game keeps throwing me medics, and Ansel for budget pick. Casters, thank God they are finally viable. The more general picks are Aya and Lin, For Lin, you can actively pick Arc for the combo. When you have good relics, you can pick GG and Passenger, although personally it's mostly Golden Glow. Mastima and Quanipalad are more for CC and especially the ending 2 boss. KOB is also a viable choice for ending 3 and 4 bosses. And finally, we have Specialists. As always, they are versatile, and no matter what relics you have, there are always something they can use. It's more about competing for picks against the 2 limited executors. Other than that too, there are Spectre Altar for lane holding and a guaranteed 20-second block and slow afterwards. Dorothy for the full map CC, and she's pretty good with some relics. Arc is a viable choice who provides CC with auto attacks, and his optimal skill 3 targets are usually Lin or Munnar. For starter, you can try Swire Altar, where she can transition into support at the layer floors, and finally we have Ethan, who remained a budget yet powerful CC provider. That's all for the guide before IS4 actually drops. You can also share the picks you've been or will be going with in the comments below. And I hope you enjoy your ride in IS4 because I honestly enjoyed it so much at its debut in CN. Don't forget to click on the skill tree, and I'll see you in another video. Bye bye.